It's so pleasure for me to speak with you again, and I wanted to say thank you for all support that you give my country. It's so important for Ukrainian. And I suggested to start from the first question. So for almost 2 years, Ukrainians have resisted Russian full-scale aggression. And now we are not in the best situation, to be honest. Looks like fatigue. If we don't break the deadlock, how will this war end for Ukraine, Europe, and Russia?
Situation in general around the world is not good, and tensions are geopolitically everywhere, not only in Ukraine. The aggressors are quite successful until now, not failing, and the West is not yet taking them seriously enough. And even situation which you expressed as a deadlock or stalemate in Ukraine really means that we in the West are not yet fully in understanding what that means and not yet supporting you enough as we should. And because of that, the war is longer and will be even more years to come. And this partly I blame, of course, on the West, who is not only politically and mentally, but also militarily is not ready to support in full scale, because during these years after Second World War, the defense industry in Europe especially was practically demolished.
Okay, but now the situation is difficult. Why? Because we see delays in the supply of weapons, in the supply of aid. Ukrainian soldiers are already seeing their practical consequences. They have to save shells, ammunition at the front line. A pause in support for Ukraine. What does it mean tactically and strategically in the future?
No, what that means, you know yourself. That means more losses of your territory and more losses of the Ukrainian lives. And this we try to explain to our West partners who are more far from the front line. In Baltic states and Poland, we understand what that means. We are supporting Ukraine per capita in the first 5 countries. We are the largest supporter of Ukraine. But in absolute figures, of course, we are not able to compete with Germany or other countries. But today, large dependence is on US political paralysis, where the United States are not able to make a decision. Pre-election situation is influencing their capacity to make a decision. And this we feel all, and you feel on your fields. This is a very dangerous situation, and Munich conference showed that the West is still mentally not ready to go through its own red lines. And this situation in Ukraine not yet fully influences the speed which is necessary to make decisions in the West.
Speed is necessary. We understand you in Ukraine, everybody understands it. But now, what do we see in the US? That in the House of Representatives to vote on the unfilled package of aid to partners and Ukraine too. And do other G7 member or EU member have the resources to reply the assistance to Ukraine? What do you think?
It's a problem that more than half of assistance, especially military assistance, comes from US. From Europe, it is military assistance, but mainly it is financial assistance. And it is about half of all support comes from Europe. So Europe understands that it needs to take more responsibility, no matter what outcome will be in American elections. Even if Biden will win or Trump, no matter who will win, Europe will need to take more responsibility to revive its own defense industry and to help Ukraine more and more, because American politics is already changed, and America is a little bit closing in on its own continent and not even leaving the position of the, let's say, value leader in the world. And from this point of view, if we will see this after one or another outcome of elections in US, for Europe, it will be main responsibility for its own defense and security, and of course for supporting Ukraine. This coming slower than Ukrainians need, especially than Ukrainian soldiers need. But it is coming. This understanding is coming. And Putin, of course, with his aggressive behavior, is helping to understand this more and more. And we saw the February 16th announcement of Navalny's death. It is also serious enough to the West that Putin is not yet stopped. He is doing what he wants, and he's demonstratively doing such kind of things in the face as a blow to all Western leaders.
We will say more about election in next question, but now I want to ask you so difficult question for myself, to be honest. It's about negotiation table. Is it possible that our partners will try brought Ukraine to negotiation table with Russia?
I can say only one thing, that nobody can force you to do anything. Ukraine will decide how to finish the war, how to find, how long to find, and what the winning for Ukraine will be. The West will be in support as much as they understand and they will can, each month more and more. So for you, it's very important to survive 24 years, because their capacities of defense capacities in Europe is increasing rapidly, but not enough in speed what Ukraine needs. So in reality, nobody can push you to do anything against your own wish. So it's up to Ukrainian authorities and to Ukrainian people to decide. Are you going to give in or not? And with aggressors, my personal opinion, it's better never, ever to give in.
And one more difficult question, does Europe need to prepare the plan in which Ukraine loses? And the next question, is the West ready to confront with Russia today?
We don't need to prepare plan B because we are not even thinking about Ukrainian loss. We will try to be supportive as much as we can. But we need to be prepared for any provocations possible from Putin's Russia side. And for that, I will say, as Ukrainians, you know yourself, then the war started. Nobody was prepared. But you landed by fighting back. And in a week time, you already resisted Russians and stopped Russians on your territory. But in the first hours, nobody is able to be ready for such kind of tragic event. So the same way, we are preparing, we are spending more, we are buying equipment, we're talking, but I'm sure that it will be shock anyway to anyone than if such kind of war will start. But for Baltic states and Poland, we remember 1940. Then we didn't resist it, and what happened? That we have been occupied by 50 years, and Gulag was for our people to prepare. So this we know, and we don't want to repeat. So that means we will follow in your steps, we will fight back, and for any aggressor, especially Russian military criminals, will be not easy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this position. And now I wanted to talk about Munich Security Conference. It took place over the weekend. What signals did you see, did you hear there? Maybe some strong speeches from the leaders of the world?
I wish to, but I can confirm that it was not the case. Mm-hmm. I think that situation shows that leaders of the West have been quite lost after events, especially with the death or murder of Navalny. And there was no leadership speeches which we can say that it will save the world or will solve the problems. The problem of leadership in general in the world and in Europe, including, and in US, it's a problem that this leadership we are lacking. If we will be having such leadership, we will be already not fighting, and Ukraine will be not fighting. Already we will be on winning side. So the lack of leadership was reflected also in Munich speeches and in Munich meetings.
From this meeting, how do you think the West still scared of confronting Russia? Is it fear of Putin, or perhaps fear of losing their money? Maybe are there any reason?
if you're afraid of war, the war will come to you. That's, we know, after Second World War. And the Churchill was saying that if you're afraid to take the shame and afraid to fight, you will have the shame and the war together. So today, theoretically, the West leaders knows it by history, by practice, but still they are saying that they will be not involved in direct confrontation with Russia. That's exactly, I evaluate personally such situation and such position as invitation for Russia to fight further and more deeper, and even to frighten in future NATO country. So this is a mistake. That we already 2 years declaring in advance that we will not face Russia directly, only help Ukraine. This is a strategic, not only tactical, it is strategic mistake, which allows Russia still to be aggressive, still fight, and live on his crazy vision of restoring imperialism of Russia around the world. So this is a mistake which still we in the West repeating, or most of our leaders are repeating. And this allows Russia to be still in Ukraine and to fight with you. And I hope that with time, this will change, especially now every month Europe is changing, at least what I'm seeing, especially in the face of Germany, for example, which was very reluctant at all in supporting with lethal weapons Ukraine. And now it's already the most speeding investments into defense capacities for all Europe, and government of Germany is now leading the way in Europe. So from this point of view, it is changing. We see these changes. They're not enough, and they're not yet of a stepped red line of confronting Russia. Still, West is afraid to confront Russia, because mainly of the nuclear war and the war of the Third World War. While in my opinion, we are already in confrontation with Russia. We're already fighting with Russia because we have not only direct military confrontation on your territory, but we do have cyber attacks, we do have propaganda, informational attacks. So in reality, we already, by hybrid method of war, we're already in confrontation. So why to be afraid to name it and to do exactly after naming to act accordingly?
But I absolutely agree with you that now Europe is waking up. Yeah, but I guess that you will agree with me that now Europe is scared not only about potential aggression, but also about potential second arrival of Trump as a president of the US. You were president when Trump was also head of the United States. How can you explain such fears from European leaders and just politics and diplomats?
I think it is not exactly the fear. If President Trump will win, it will be a lot more unpredictability in the world, because he's very unpredictable, but he's unpredictable not only for its partners, but he's unpredictable for its enemies, and he's also unpredictable to himself. I am sure that he do not know what he will do tomorrow. And this is manageable because he already in 2018 wanted to go out from NATO, and we managed to stop him and to explain to him how much investments we did. So, and I had quite, I would say, workable, good relations with him. And as I say, it is difficult, it will be difficult, but it is manageable. So there is nothing to fear, because then we are seeing today partly weaknesses in today's administration, not mainly because of President himself, President Biden, but mainly because his administration is paralyzed in decision-making now in the House and partly in Senate. So there is not much of difference for us, for Europeans, who is not able to make a decision, and because of what, and because of what reasons not able to make a decision. It's about a year before elections, and already American politics are not able to agree on the package of support to Ukraine. So we see weaknesses in this administration already popping up. So from this point of view, I will not be afraid of Trump. Opposite, I think Putin needs to be afraid of him, because Trump will never allow to push him around. Never. Anyone. Neither friends, neither enemies.
And he still was a president, and I guess that Europe had such recipe how to work with Trump. But also we all know his last statement about NATO, that he would encourage Russia to attack any NATO allies that he believes have not fulfilled their financial obligation. Has there been an understanding inside NATO that they must rely only on themselves?
No, I'm taking this as very much a speech oriented towards internal U.S. audience before elections. But in general, there is part of truth in his threat, because only about half of NATO members are spending 2%. And he's right that we need Europeans to invest more into our defense, especially now in the phase that we are seeing such kind of open military invasion of Russia into a European country. So from this point of view, we need to take this criticism against us very seriously. Now, all Baltic states and Poland, we investing more than 2.5%, close to 3%. And I think Europeans need to follow and need to catch up. So from this point of view, I do not afraid of this threat. But this pressure from US president, no matter which one, it's important for us to understand that the more and more responsibility is lying on the European shoulders, and we need to take this responsibility seriously.
Mm-hmm. And about NATO, at least this year, the alliance will expand by 1+ country. Sweden will become 32nd member. But why are they not ready to invite Ukraine to join NATO?
For NATO invitation to become a NATO member, there is a lot of obligations. It's not only military preparedness, which I will say that your military level of military preparedness now is one of the best in Europe, but also it's a democracy, quality of democracy, and anti-corruption level. So a lot of conditionalities. But what I want to say that in such situation as open war, let's not think that Article 5 will help us fully, because NATO, it's an organization of member states, and organization which bases on its own armies, which armies are developed more and more capable to defend. And Article 5 only inviting and allowing member states to help each other. It is not absolutely 100% obligation to help each other. And if, for example, President of the United States will say that he's not in a hurry to support, Article 5 will collapse. So what I want to say to you, your strength, what is more important even than membership of NATO? Your Ukrainian strength, your military, our collective support, bilateral agreements you are signing now for support. That's more important than formal membership. Yes, it's good in future for you, but it will not solve the war question today. Because even now, without your membership, if members of NATO will be ready and capable to help you in the air, foot on the ground, they're able to do it without your membership in NATO, but they're not able to. So even hypothetically, if you will become a member tomorrow, there is no capacity in the West to help you more than it is done today. So don't worry about the membership. Worry about real support, real and speedy and heavy support for you today.
I agree with you that the most strong guarantee is our strong army, strong troops, strong weapons. But we know the position of authority of NATO that Ukraine will be invited when conditions allow. But isn't this a signal to Putin to continue the war as long as possible he can?
No, because conditions, the formulation as it is, purely depend on political decision of NATO members. We can evaluate condition that it is good or condition not. But as I said, even membership today will not help you, because there is without United States direct military assistance, Europe still not able to replace American military assistance to you. So even if you will be hypothetically members of NATO tomorrow, an American president after elections, for example, hypothetically, will say that I'm not in a hurry to help, that's it. So what I want to say, what is important today is your commitment to fight, readiness and courage of your people, and bilateral support from member states, which are your neighbors, which in Europe and of course in US. That is most important, not even the membership, formal membership. This will happen sooner or later, but it's not the safe, it's not the saver. What is important for you, real direct support today, tomorrow, but not for formalization of your membership in it.
You're also a member of an international group whose task is to promote Ukraine's association to NATO. Are they already preparing some recommendations for Kyiv?
Yes, of course, not only for Kyiv. Our job is also not only to help recommend and advise to Kyiv, but it is also about to promote in the West your cause and to explain, to persuade the politicians, public opinion, that Ukraine is important for our not only European security, but also for the world global security, and that your place in NATO is absolutely irreplaceable for anybody, and especially for Europe. Because with your army, with your people's commitment, with your experience, it's a huge asset for organization. And that's our job. And my job now, I'm more engaged in the West sphere, where I try to explain the necessity, the situation in Ukraine, and to persuade political level, public opinion, NGOs, and all this kind of work we now performing. But of course, the core group will be preparing also some advice to your government. But as I said, this formulation about conditions, they are not made in steel and stone. They could be interpreted differently depending on political will, window of opportunity, which will arise during the war or after the war. So from this point of view, all these things is finally political decision, nothing else.
Mm-hmm. The EU is also preparing for an enlargement. Why is it important for Europe, and how do you think when it will be possible, maybe in 2030?
Don't put the time tag, because for us, for example, we started to deal with Europe in '92, and in 2004 we became a member. So it took 12 years. But for you, because of the war, your reforms are so speedy, you are changing so fast, that I think that your way towards the European Union will be faster. Of course, it could be with some transitional periods for some measures and so on, but I'm expecting that it's also, of course, political decision finally, but with a lot more economic conditionalities, the changes of laws, the adaptation of administration towards the European Union, and another element is that the European Union also needs to reform itself to be prepared to absorb Ukraine. As we see in conflicts on the border, or with the grain, with Poland, for example, that's exactly that. Europe is also not yet ready to absorb a large Ukrainian economy. So on both sides, reforms are necessary in Europe and, of course, in Ukraine during this difficult time. But anyway, your country is doing well, and I am very happy that you're able, in such difficult times for your country, still able to do the reforms necessary for the membership of the European Union. This, I'm sure that it will happen, because for Europe, your economy is important. It is economic security, it's competitive security, and it's physical and military security, which both organizations, both members in NATO and in Europe, we need.
So now a lot of people talk about European leadership in the world. And how do you think, is it a reality? Is it possible in near future? For example, will Europe be able to take the lead in the head-to-head with Berlin, or maybe Paris, or even London?
It depends very much on concrete geopolitical situation. If we will see that in US after elections, will be the withdrawal again, at least the attempt to withdraw from global leadership by a United States president, as previously, let's say, it was at least attempt. In that case, there will be no choice for Europe but to take responsibility, and it will be done. And Europe is more and more talking about that. But I will be more happy not to make one or another region as a leader, but to cooperate in leadership together with transatlantic cooperation as we have now, and wish very much that no matter what outcome of elections will be in the US, that US will stay on global stage and will be important for all of us, and together, US and Europe, we will be a lot stronger and be able to do a lot more. So from this point of view, I don't wish anybody to become solemnly alone leadership, to take alone leadership, but still to keep transatlantic cooperation as the main value and as the main strength for all of us after Second World War.
So we started our interview from the war, Russia against Ukraine, and now I want to ask you about preparing for war. Do you see any real preparation in the Baltic states, in particular, in the military, economic, and maybe political spheres, and maybe even more in morale, works with people?
Yes, it is already. We started to do it myself. Then I was a president from 2014 after Crimea occupation. We started to introduce conscription. We increased our military spending, and now Baltic states are spending between 2.5% and 3%, and we will be increasing further. We agreed on joint border fortification between Baltic states. Poland is also doing this. So from this point of view, we are preparing. We are also buying air defense equipment. All this kind of things are ongoing. And more exercises with our partners and more presence, especially German presence in Lithuania concretely, in Poland, US troops, mainly forward presence, and we are waiting for the brigade of Germany to be placed here. So new military infrastructure is building in all frontier of Baltic states and Poland. Yes, we are preparing because we understand that the paranoia which we are seeing, military paranoia, the imperialistic paranoia which we seeing on our border, will not go anywhere until the life of the President Putin. That's clear that he will not be withdrawing from this way he already stepped on. It will be up to his end of his own life, and we will be facing not just 1 or 2 or 5 years, we will be facing decades of confrontation with Russia, all of us.
But will Putin take a risk? How do you think? He is now up for re-election in March. He is gradually coming out of isolation. And even more American journalists came to him for a 2-hour interview. Maybe you saw this conversation between Putin and this Carlson. Aren't these all stages in saving the dictator's face?
You know, it will not help him because Russianism and Putinism has no face. There is nothing to say. From this point of view, such kind of interviews will not help at all. Who believed will believe anyway. Who is resilient to such kind of propaganda will stay resilient. So if you have no face, there is nothing to say.
So, Dalia, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you that you answer me for this difficult and important question. Now, looks like dark times, but I guess we will still alive. Thank you so much for your. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. And до перемоги і слава Україні. Nobody, any aggressor will never beat courageous nation who knows who they are. So we need to understand it. Maybe it's still dark times, it's still difficult, but sooner or later, aggressor will got what he is worth. And this happened with Hitler, this will happen with Putin.
Thank you for your position. Thank you that you're the whole time with Ukraine, with Ukrainian people, and thank you for your support. As I said previously, it is so important that you with our people.
Thank you.
Thank you.